Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to our fourth day and last day of our Dive Philippines Scuba webinar series, powered by the Department of Tourism and ADEX. It has been such an amazing past 3 days, but we saved the best topics for the last day because we are going to be looking into the treasures and the special things that you can find here in the Philippines. But to tell you more about it, we have a special message from the Department of Tourism. We have Secretary Bernadette Puyat here to tell you more about the initiative that Department of Tourism is doing to relaunch scuba diving and promoting tourism here in the Philippines.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome everyone to the Dive Philippines webinar series, the first of a series of exciting dive-centric events this new year. It also comes hot on the heels of being recognized last year for the second year in a row as the world's leading dive destination by the World Travel Awards. I would like to take this opportunity and thank all our regional directors and local dive operators representing our best dive sites and destinations, our partner operators abroad, and participants from Canada, China, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, Korea, Netherlands, Spain, Thailand, UK, and the United States of America. The Philippines, as an archipelago at the center of the Coral Triangle, is home to biologically diverse marine and aquatic resources. We are proud to have a dive destination that has it all, from the smallest critters to pelagic animals, and where the incredible biodiversity you see underwater is parallel to see what you see topside. It is no wonder that diving and marine sports are considered one of our country's top tourism products and attractions. Most of the flourishing tourism activities available in the country today are water-based, from adventure to ecotourism activities such as snorkeling, diving, and surfing. With this, the department sees dive tourism as one of the key areas for positive industry growth, including increased visitor count, extended length of stay, and higher tourism revenue. We are blessed to be home to more than 300 dive sites, some of which are world-renowned, such as the Tubataha Reef Natural Park, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Apo Reef Natural Park, Malapascua Island, Apo Island, Anilao, and the Verde Island Passage in Puerto Golera, to name a few. The Philippines is also fully equipped with the human resource and infrastructure to cater to all types of divers, whether you are a dive beginner, technical diver, underwater photographer, or even a free diver. Thus, it is imperative that protecting our local marine resources should be our priority, and fortunately, we see divers as our allies in this advocacy. The diving community is increasingly becoming involved in environmental protection initiatives, more often as part of the recreational activities. It is in this context that we bring to you this 4-day event that aims to sustain the positive image of the Philippines as the leading dive destination and reinforce our relevance on the world stage amidst the pandemic and beyond. The business to business product presentations will feature our top and emerging diving destinations and provide a forum with marine ecosystem updates, new products, tourism circuits, and topside attractions, as well as health and safety protocols and initiatives in the new normal. We will be joined by key dive personalities and experts from across the globe to present and discuss relevant topics and segments which highlight the country's competitive advantage in the region. The sessions will be discussing dive training agencies and education, sustainable marine tourism, liveaboard diving, tech cave wreck diving, underwater photographer, and black water photography. While we are undergoing challenging times due to the pandemic, the past year has highlighted the importance of forging strong networks and partnerships in travel and tourism. We thus hope that this event provides the platform to virtually meet and reconnect, share success stories, experiences, and ideas to gain knowledge, reset, and chart the way moving forward in 2021 and beyond. Thank you very much for your participation. May you all enjoy an informative webinar in the next few days, and I look forward to welcoming you back to our magnificent underwater world very soon. Thank you very much and mabuhay.
Thank you very much, Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puya. Now, without further ado, let me introduce to you the topic for today's session. We are going to be talking about black water. I know it's been something really trending here in the Philippines, but not just here. It's been trending around the world, and I would like to welcome professional photographers, beginner photographers, and anyone who just enjoys doing black water. This talk is perfect for you because we have very exciting speakers who are actually based around the world now. They're coming and speaking from different parts of the different continents even, and you will be able to get a chance to speak to these experts, ask them their favorite critters, their favorite locations, ask them about what gear to use, and really interact with them. So again, feel free to, if you have any questions, you can put it on the chat box here in Zoom or comment on the Facebook Live. We can't wait to hear from you, and I'm sure our speakers are excited to meet you as well. So without further ado, let me move the floor to the moderator for the Blackwater topic. We have William Tan from Singapore. Hello, William. Hello, yes. There we go.
There we go. Yep, I'm going to start. All right. We have an exciting panel of distinguished guests today for the Blackwater photography talk. And I thank you for your interest in Blackwater photography. Now, the first person I want to introduce to you is Suzanne. Her first tripod fish image that she shot in Florida brought a lot of interest to people shooting fish larvas. Before that, fish larvas are hard to find, and she created an immense interest on fish larva. So, Susan, would you like to introduce yourself briefly?
There we go. Hi. Hello, I'm Susan Meldonian. I'm in Florida in the United States. I've been doing blackwater diving since 2015. So it's been a number of years already. I can't even believe it's been that much time.
Thank you, Susan. Second person would be Wawi. Wawi had won many awards, the most recent being the Wildlife Photographer of the Year, underwater category. And he has worked very closely with Scuba Land and Pacific Enzo Resort in Anilao. Wawi, would you like to introduce yourself briefly?
Hello, I'm Wawi. My Chinese name is Songda. I started diving since 2015, and I started shooting blackwater since 2016. Based in Anilao. So I'm very happy to meet you guys here, and yeah.
Thank you, Wawi. Last but not least, Mike Bartik. Mike is the manager of Crystal Blue Resort, and he started the Blackwater Photo Group Facebook group. He has a list of most active researchers and scientists in the group who are willing to identify the animals that they have shot. Mike, would you like to introduce yourself briefly? Mike, we can't hear you. Can you turn on your...
Hi, I'm Mike Bartik. I'm coming to you from Southern California, the United States. Yeah, I started blackwater diving about 2015 or 16 in Anilao, but I really started with blue water shooting in California in about 2010. But I spend most of my time in the Philippines and in Anilao, and between and some of the other locals who've really come on to some really fascinating and interesting subjects, which we're going to share tonight. So look forward to it.
Thank you, Mike. Okay,
Thank you.
What we are going to do today is I will start off with a short slide presentation on how blackwater photography is done. And then it will go on to Susan and Wawi and Mike. And then there will be a question and answer session after that. So I'm going to start off with my presentation now. 1 second. Okay, blackwater. More than 30 years ago, blackwater was actually a PADI specialty diver certification for diving in rivers of Florida and Georgia with less than 6 inches of visibility. But the modern blackwater diving that we know now is actually involved in searching for plankton and pelagic animals in midwater, and we photograph them. It all originated in Hawaii. I remember in my college years, I read about this diving that was done in Hawaii. People would bring a boat out to the middle of the ocean, and they would drop down an angle. They go down and sit on the angle line at night, all right? And they would shoot whatever that the current brings them. Kind of scary, don't you think? But I remember one incident that the person wrote. He said he saw a large shark tail beside him. And to him, he looked again. He said, spots, not stripes, so he is safe. Whale sharks, not tiger sharks. So diving like this is actually quite challenging. My early plankton shooting days is basically shooting whatever you find on your normal dives. If you come across a plankton, you shoot it. You could do it in the day, you could do it at night. But at that time, not a lot of resorts are willing to give you a boat to go out to the open ocean at night to shoot. No resort in the right mind would do that. So my early plankton images were from then. But it wasn't until Scott Gutsy, who came up with a book, Blackwater Open Blue, in April 2016, that caught the attention of the world about plankton images. The beautiful images in the book made everybody wants to do blackwater diving. And it was from then the resorts are happy to come out with proper planning for a safe dive for such a kind of diving. Now, what most people think blackwater diving is all about is going down in midwater, finding an animal, and then you shoot. It is not quite so. In reality, blackwater diving is like that. Within all this mess, you have to search for the animal you want to shoot. And you have to isolate them with your camera, not with your hands, with your camera, with your lens. And you try to shoot them without the backscatters. So it is actually very, very challenging. Blackwater photography is equipment dependent. You need proper equipment for doing this kind of photography. Now, you need foremost a very strong torch to put in midwater so that you could attract animals. This is the torch I'm using. What makes Anilao a very great place for shooting blackwater is most of the resorts are equipped with torches, very, very powerful ones. So you don't have to bring your torch with you. But if you go to places where the resorts doesn't do things like this, you have to bring a small torch that is very powerful with you so that you could at least attract something. And this is the torch I normally use because it has a RA factor of 96 and it attracts more animals than the rest. There are a few brands. This is not the only brand of torches out there with RA 96 rating. Mike, I think probably is using a different torch. Maybe Mike can tell you about his torches later. But you need a strong torch to bring the animals in so that you could shoot. My camera setup. This is how I set up my camera. On the top, you could see there's a target light. I will talk about the target light later. And I'm using a Nauticam housing with 2 Enon strobes. I found out that from a few years of trying, okay, the placing of strobes at this angle will give you the least backscatters. I do not know. I mean, maybe when I started diving again, when the pandemic is over, I might find a different angle that works better than this. But as of now, for me, this is the best angle to place your strobes. So it doesn't give you a lot of backscatters. You also need torches to search for the animals. Okay, I'm using a big torch, a powerful one, so that it reaches far and you could see the animals when they move. I also have a small spare torch just in case the battery runs out on the big torch when you're searching for animals. Autofocus or manual focus. I recently dived, my last dive was in March with Anna and Nat Deloche in Anilao. And I have very bad eyesight. So I cannot see close. So manual focus is definitely out for me. So I rely a lot on autofocusing. But Nat Deloche is using manual focus. And you know, the first few days when I saw him in the water, I was really worried whether he could get anything sharp. But you know, when he showed me his images are sharper than mine. So autofocus or manual focus, if it works for you, it doesn't really matter. As for me, okay, in my viewfinder, this is what you normally see. A very small animal moving about in mid-water. After processing, cropping and processing, this is the kind of image you get. All right, so you basically need a camera with a higher megapixel sensor so that you can crop quite a bit. And you also need, if you're using autofocusing, you also need a fast focusing camera. To track such a subject in the water, okay, if you use a single point, if you use a single spot AF, you're going to be in deep trouble because you know the animal is so small and it's moving about, and for you to place the focusing point on it, it's going to be quite difficult. So what I do is I use the expanded AF area, the 9 squares. So it is easier to place the animal within this 9 square as they move about. But if you're tracking a larger object, then the 9 square doesn't quite work. All right, the 9 square doesn't quite work because if your object is something like this, your 9 square is not going to pinpoint the eye sharply, accurately. So you would want to go back to a single spot AF to make it work so that you can focus on the eye. Now, I'm very interested to try the new eye focusing system in the R5 and R6 when we are allowed to go back to dive. Maybe with that it will solve all the problems in focusing underwater, but maybe not, who knows? I will let you know when I get to try it. Every lens has a sweet spot, and all the macro lenses that we are using are mostly at f2.8. Now the lens sweet spot for f2.8 lens is usually between 5.6 to f11. All right. If you go beyond f11, the sharpness of the image would go down slightly. I usually don't push it more than f6 to more than f16. Sometimes if you have to push it to f22, but at f22, you lose a lot of sharpness. So if you shoot between 5.6 to f11, actually I shoot mostly at f11, you are going to get very sharp images, crystal clear sharpness, and you also get texture. You also get texture. So you can see in this image, this is a pram bug with the babies inside a jelly or some kind. You could see the texture in everything. So if you use a smaller aperture than this, you would lose some of the sharpness. This is a jack with a jellyfish. You could see the texture on the fish skin. You could see the texture on the jellyfish as well. And this is an immortal jellyfish. Lots of texture here. So if you shoot within the lens sweet spot, that is where the lens function is best, you would get very good quality images. Magnification. Canon has, I'm using Canon cameras. So Canon has 3 macro lenses, two 100mm macro lenses and one 60mm macro lens. The 60mm macro lens is not very good in quality, so we usually do not use it. A lot of people felt that the Nikon camera with a very, very good 60mm macro lens is the way to go for blackwater diving, because you can shoot closer, you can shoot bigger animals. But a 100mm lens has its advantages at times. Okay, I will tell you why later. Okay, a 100mm lens, most macro lenses actually we're using underwater, would be able to give you a magnification to life size. Life size meaning 1:1. Okay, of the 200mm lenses that Canon produces, I'm using the one without the L. I liked it better because I find the focusing, the initial focusing slightly faster than the one with the L. So for me, this is a better choice, and it is just as sharp, maybe slightly inferior in color to the L lens, but that you can put back with post-processing, so that is not a problem to me. Now with this lens, you could shoot bigger animals. This is a squid predating on another squid, and the other squid is already about to die, and it squirted out ink. All right. So on animals like this, if the focusing is fast, you could still shoot without a problem. When I was diving with Nat and Anna Deloach, I found this crab zoa. It should be a zoa because of the tail. If you look carefully, there's a tail underneath. So when I found this, I took a few shots just to make sure that I have some record shots. This is from the side, and this is from the top. And when I got my shots, I start to bang the tank nonstop. And Anna came and she saw and she shot a bit on her video. And then I asked her to go find that, because this is apparently quite an important find. This is a crab zoa that no scientists actually know what family it belongs to. So Nat at that time was busy shooting blanket octopus down deep. Of course, we cannot find him. So eventually I lost sight of this, and that was it. And I'm hoping Anna and Nat are talking to me about going back to Anilao sometime when the pandemic is over, and we are hoping to find this guy again. Another time when in Anilao, Anilao Bay is a wonderful place to dive in because it is very deep and there is no there is not a lot of current, almost no current inside. So it is very safe to do blackwater diving in there. And there was one time I was there with a friend from Taiwan, and we were shooting in the water separately. I mean, he shooting whatever he was doing, and me at another place. And I came across this crab. At first, it was swimming some quite slowly, so I was shooting, and then it turned upside down and it started sinking. So I followed it down for a while, and there's only so many angles you can shoot of a crab not moving, sinking. So after a few shots, I decided that's it. I'm not going to follow it anymore. So I turned around, I banged my tank, and I asked my friend to come over to shoot. So when I saw his light coming towards me, I turned back to look at the crab again, and this was what I saw. It was coming out from the shell. And this was the image that is Pinsel is coming out from the shell. So when I went back to the room, I went back and I looked at the last few images I shot. This was the before I asked my friend to come over. This was the second last image. If you zoom in and you look carefully, the eye had already left the socket in the shell. And this was the last image. The eye has completely left the socket, and the pincer is also leaving the old shell. All right, so Anilau actually has a lot of surprises. If you look carefully, it has a lot of surprises for you. Close-up lenses. The thing with the 100mm lens or with the Nikon 105mm lens is the focusing distance is further. So instead of going for bigger things, I go for smaller things. And with close-up lenses, you can shoot smaller and smaller and smaller animals. So these are the close-up lenses that I started off with, FIT Pro Plus 10 and the Nauticam CMC1. In the beginning, they are not easy to use, okay? You throw up like crazy. But after a while, the Pro Plus 10 seems easy. So I shot a lot with the Pro Plus 10 in my earlier years. There are people who claims that they can shoot with the SMC1 and the SMC2. I beg to differ. You try doing that in mid-water, the animal's moving, you are moving, the water is moving the both of you. No, it's not possible at all. Okay, so with one FIT plus 10, this is what we are looking at. This is a goosefish larva. You don't have to crop as much. Okay, the reason for using a close-up filter is you can focus closer, so the animals appear bigger in your final image. You don't have to crop as much, so you can retain more details of the animals. This is a gooffish. This is a sole larva. I've seen this a few times in Anilau. They don't move that far, so with a close-up filter, it is still very easy to shoot these animals. These are two sea butterflies mating. All right, how do I know they are mating? Because in the pictures I could see two tubes going to one another. This is when you shoot with the correct aperture on your lens, the lens sweet spot. You know, when it is very, very sharp, you can see all these details in your images. With two pieces of FIT plus 10, you stack them together. All right, this is tough. This is very tough. After some practicing, I also got used to using this, and it was possible to shoot, but tough. All right. So this is a seed stream. How big is this guy? 2 mm. 2 mm. So all you see is a white dot moving about in water. And with two pieces of FIT plus 10, I was able to get an image. This is a very small jellyfish, probably around 3 mm or so. This is a theropod, probably holding eggs. I do not know for sure. Okay, those look like eggs in the body. All right, so with two pieces of plus 10, you can get even closer, and the animal will appear even bigger in your final image. Now, secrets to focusing through diopters. Okay, people ask me, how can you do it? The secret is very easy. Cesic pills. All right, one piece of diopter, one cesic pill. Two pieces of diopters, two cesic pills. Okay, and in the trip over March with Ned and Anna, I became very daring. I used the CMC2 underwater. And what kind of image does it give? Okay, this is also a theropod, two theropods actually mating. You can see the mating tubes mating there. All right. This is a sea angel laying eggs. You could see all the eggs around. This is a shrimp that I've been trying to get for many years. I've seen them in Taiwan, I've seen them in Indonesia, and I've seen them in Philippines. When you get lucky in Anilao, it is possible to shoot this kind of animals even with a diopter on. And this is a lobster larva. I was shooting this, it wasn't moving a lot, so I was hoping that it would molt, and it did. And at that time, I was thinking, should I take off the diopter? Because with the diopter, it's going to be very difficult to shoot. And if it molt and I miss the molting, I would kill myself. But I decided to keep the diopter on, and I was quite happy I did that, because when it molted, and this is the image. Now, Anna told me actually, every time I come back to the boat, because the entire trip I was shooting with this diopter, Anna told me, you look really bad. Are you okay? Every single time. Even with the cesic pill, the CMC2 is actually very difficult to use. But you know, when you get an image, the image is really stunning. High-speed continuous burst. When I shoot animals this tiny, okay, in Anilao, you want to get as close to the animal as possible so that the animal will be bigger. And sometimes when you go too close, you go beyond the closest focusing distance that your lens allow. By shooting high-speed continuous bursts, your first flash that fire, the animal would move away. So as it's moving away, the burst, hopefully one of the images will be in focus. This is my idea of using this burst. But it also gave me some surprises, especially with squids. This is a squid that we find in Anilao, usually quite deep, 20+ meters or so, the adults, the bigger ones. This one was at least 8 inches, okay? You could see in the tentacles, the claw-like things on it to grab onto its prey. So it's quite a formidable squid. But the babies are cute. These are the tiny ones, okay? So on my high-speed burst images, this was the first image, and this was the second image. Now, what's the difference? In the first image, look at the eye. The first image and the second image. The light actually causes it to close the eyes with a membrane. Okay, so it reacted to the light. But by the third image, it's back to normal, so you know it is not hurting the animal. Diamond squid. This is the first image. This is the burst second image. You could see that the light changes causes the squid to change in color. But also, by the third image, it's back to white again. So you know that it is not really harming the animal. I was told if you keep shining a very strong light on diamond squid, it changes color further. I have not done it, so I don't think I will do it. Okay, but that was what I was told. So maybe for people who have done it, they will be able to show you what color it will go into. I don't think that is going to hurt the animal, but I myself, I will not do it. So it is nothing wrong doing that, okay, as long as you're not hurting the animal. So so lights, we know it can play a lot of tricks with the animals. And in the water, if you're using a high-speed burst, you would see a lot of things that you have never seen before. Of course, your strokes has to be powerful enough to recycle fast enough for this kind of burst shots. With the Enon 320, I think I can get up to about 5 shots in a row before you see a decline in light. So it is possible to shoot up to 5 shots in a row. Not all target. Yes.
William, sorry. We have a reminder from the team that we have just a few minutes left.
Okay. Right.
Thank
right.
you.
Not all target lights are created equal. The target light I'm using is this. All right. It has a rotating blade. What's the rotating blade for is to block the light below when you turn it to the bottom. So if you have krills like this in front of your camera, there's no way you could shoot. And if you have a light like this on your camera, it creates a shadow in front of your lens. So the krill would congregate on top and not in front of your lens. So it is possible for you to shoot. It's also rated at RA95 and is at 300 to 2002 lumens. So with a light like that, because it is very similar to the sun spectrum, it doesn't scare the animal away. So instead of the animal turning away from your camera, it will come towards you actually. So this is how I got the animals. For this shot, it was difficult for me to get to the other side. This is the other side. It kept giving me the front side. So I wanted the bottom side, and I had to swim over many times. But the animal, the fish, the pancake fish was not afraid of my light. So it kept giving me the front. So it was difficult for me to get a shot like this. Blanket octopus, paper nautilus. Paper nautilus are actually, they actually have a membrane to cover the shell. So unless, if they are happy with the environment, you could see a membrane covering the shell. You could see the spots on the shell. That's the membrane. And if they are not disturbed at all, and with a light that they're very comfortable with, they're actually this color. Now there is one animal that 100 mm lens cannot shoot. When you're in the water, sometimes when a big animal appears, with your macro lens, you cannot shoot. And I'm still talking to Nauticam about getting their convert, the attachment to convert a macro lens to a wide angle lens. And with that, I think that it will be easier than carrying two camera systems down, one for macro and one for wide. And if something like this come about, and it will be possible to shoot, and it makes shooting blanket octopus a lot easier too. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you all. Let me get out of screen sharing. Okay, Susan, would you like to go on with your presentation?
Okay, share screen. And okay, so I'm gonna try to go through this relatively quickly so that everyone else has some time. As I say, there's a lot of aliens down there, and this is a comb jelly, and it's not a mirror image. It is exactly what it looked like. They're just very interesting. They're very hard to photograph because they're transparent. And I'm going to talk to you about some of the different ways to think about photographing them. William asked me to show the tripod fish that was the first photograph of that. I thought I was photographing a type of a lionfish, and I was surprised by how beautiful and magnificent. I thought it was a little bit older. And this was about the size of a golf ball. And I was one of 3 people that had found this other fish, which is called a snake-toothed swallower. And for me, blackwater diving is all about photographing creatures that no one has ever seen before, and then trying to get a scientific endorsement, which always makes it very exciting. And there's always a lot of chit-chat on the Facebook page that Mike set up It's exciting when they tell you this is a deep water fish and how deep it comes from. These fish both live at around between 800 to 4,000 meters, which is the tripod fish was first found in the Mariana Trench using a bathysphere and some kind of electronic video equipment from inside the sphere to photograph it. And what's funny is a lot of these creatures, the juvenile stages are beautiful and the adults are really ugly. So you just never know what you're photographing sometime. For the folks who are watching this, I thought you should all know the difference between what blackwater is and bonfire diving. So I made this little image here, and others will probably cover it as well. I dive a lot here, but basically for blackwater, you want to be over the deep. And with the bonfire, you can do, you're diving in shallow water, like from the surface to maybe 15 meters in either condition. The difference is when you do a bonfire dive, all the little critters that live on the reef seem to be attracted to your lights. And as William was showing, here's what an image can look like when you're close to the reef. You can have all of this crazy wormy things going on, and you definitely want to wear a hood and you want to wear gloves to keep all these little things out of your ears. And if that happens to you, you do want to shut your lights down and turn on the red light and move away and find another location. Some of my rules are never take your eye off the subject, maintain excellent buoyancy, stay calm and focused, and don't kick, because when you kick, it sends a whole whirlwind that can blow away all your subjects. For me, the critters are fast and furious, or they're slow and blind, or they're attracted to your lights, and some are just, some jellyfish are attracted to your body heat. There's lethargic creatures, fish that will play dead. And then there's the stinging critters like jellyfish. There's 4 types of critters that you're thinking about and you need to be changing your lighting for. So you have transparent and gelatinous creatures, and the light goes through it. Semi-transparent, the light goes through it, but then there's something in there that's solid, and so your light's going to bounce off of it. Then you have your solid critters, and then you have your reflective, silverfish and scales. So just as some examples, the transparent can be, the glass eels are magnificent to photograph, but they're hard to photograph because they always have one little white something on them that the light is going to hit. And you have to put more, you want to have more strobe hitting that to pick up the edges and to pick up the lights that are the whites in there. And you want to move your lights a little bit outward so that you're not blowing out the whites. Semi-transparent, you're going to have the same issues, but there's a lot more white in there, or silver, or something to catch the light. And then, of course, the reflective, they seem impossible to photograph, but when you get it, it's so cool because you've moved your lights around. And then the solid, it's just like taking a picture on a night dive. Same rules apply. So remember that when you're dealing with transparent, the light travels through the animals, and you're trying to get in. Now, see, when we blow this up, that little white thing there really comes in handy to show you where the animal space is, or the yellow and the white. You could pick up some greens and other colors that are in there. Whoops. Some more semi-transparent animals are things like the wonderpuss, which I find in Anilau absolutely magnificent creatures. And also these many-eyed flounders that they're green and blue, and they're so transparent, and you're trying to pick up as much as you can. Otherwise, it's almost impossible to get a good shot of them. The photo challenge is that you need more light for the transparent parts and less for the reflective. And then there's the highly reflective. And so what I'll tell you to do is turn your strobes outward more so that you get a kiss of light on the subject, just enough to give you the edges and so forth. And here's some of my favorite setups. And like William, I liked my main setup is this one where you're setting your strobes as close to the port as you can. And you always want the strobes behind the port so as to not light up the back scatter. And for when I talk about having a kiss of light, then you're going to put your strobes out on a bit of a diagonal in this other image. And that helps, all of this helps to reduce the back scatter that's going on. And it's always there. So they asked me to just show images that I have shot in the Philippines. So these are some creatures from Romblon. The shrimp there were amazing. The colors I haven't seen, they almost look like they had spiral tubes around them. And this is a little baby puffer. And these are tiny. They're about the size of a green pea. And then one of the things that you're looking for is the behavior shots, which is a bonus for science. Most of the scientists have spent years looking at animals that are in jars in formaldehyde, and so they don't get to see the original colors, or they don't get to see how they live or how they're living unless they go on one of these expeditions, which are extremely expensive, costing $30,000 or $40,000 a day for all that equipment that they have. And then there's a million of us underwater photographers who now have this ability to take pictures underwater, and look how cool, you know, some of the behavior is, and you get to see what they're eating, and you're not dissecting it to see what it ate, you're seeing it doing it, and how the many fish relate with the jellyfish. It's just a riot. This one is one of my favorite shots, and I do use diopters. I've been using I was using a 10x subsea diopter for about 2 years, and then I was introduced to an Inon 10x, which I actually think I like that one better now because I can get it closer to the lens. And as you can see, here's a Phronema, which is the monster in a barrel. It was also the inspiration for H.R. Geiger's Alien, and I was able to get, you know, the honeycomb of the eyeballs. You know, I always thought that these orange dots down below were the eyeballs, but the top crown, that's where the eyes are. And it wouldn't be possible to see all that without the diopter on there. Is it difficult? Yes, it is. But I also am losing my eyesight, and I started using the diopters because I simply couldn't. The animals would keep coming closer and closer, and I thought, instead of fighting it, why not just let them come in close and sit on the lens if they want? So I find it to be very helpful. It's hard though, and like William said, I haven't tried the seasick pills, but I might the next time I do this. This is a sea angel that's spawning, and you can see the little eggs inside of the body, and they're like blowing it out like a bubble. And I have other pictures of, and this one is actually from Florida, but I love this picture so much, I wanted to share it with you. I know that these are possible to be seen over there. And let's see here. So now crustaceans, I'm going to say right now, I love Mike's site that he set up on Facebook. And we need some crustacean scientists to help us, assisting us with the IDs, because this is an area that we have a hard time getting people to help us to ID these. This creature on my left, which looks kind of like fireworks, is actually a larval sea urchin. And these crabs, these are crabs, the two top ones are crabs at different stages. But I think that the one that's closest in the center here, I think that it might be a marbled shrimp because of the little red dots that are going along here. And we haven't been able to find out from anyone if they've seen this. So sign up and jump in, because we have a lot of cool photographs going on over there. The shrimps are amazing. They zip around and things are moving at stealth bomber speed. And the fastest of everything is these little rascals, the mantis shrimp, which really have a lot of attitude. Now, this one on my left, I don't know if it's on your left or not, the bigger one, you can see I got the quartering of the eyes there, and you can only get that with those diopters, and you get all this extra detail that's going on. And I agree 100% with William about the F11. By the way, I use a Nikon D500, and I use two Inon Z240s, and I have tried a number of different speeds and so forth. I don't like the continuous. I've tried it for the burst shooting, but the problem is, even though this camera is so fast at focusing, and I use the 60 millimeter lens, the 105 on a D500 just takes too long to focus as far as I'm concerned. The D60 is a shorter lens, and I'm using an old film lens, which is even shorter than the brand new DX lenses. So I get a little about 1.5% more also by using that old film lens. So I'm sticking with it because I like what I get. Let's move. It's not moving. There we go. Oops. So this is the little Nautilus. I love these guys. They're so darn cute. It's just disgusting. And I love the transparency. The females are the only ones that have the shell, and that's where they're going to keep their eggs later on. And they're babies. They're the size of a pea, and there's a symbiotic relationship with the jellyfish. And here you have them where they're not disturbed, and you can see all the spots. And here where they're using the salps as camouflage because the salp's stomach is in here, and they're sitting along inside. And people said, I don't see what you're seeing. I said, look for a salp, and if you see more orange things in there, study it, and you'll find that little fellow in there, and you'll be really happy with what you get. The fish in Anilau are ridiculous, and these are larval. So they're transparent with halos of color. I just go bananas there. It was just crazy. Flying fish, they're pretty cool to photograph, and you got to get near the surface, and that's hard because the surface is moving, and you're moving, and they're moving. And then if you want to talk about seasick pills, that's where you need it for sure. Because I can't do it for very long. So any shots I get, I'm tickled with. I had the real joy to get to go with Gutsy through the Visayas Islands for, I don't know, a week or 10 days, whatever it was. Oh my God, it was amazing. And this jellyfish over here is a highly toxic little squirt with all these little tentacles, and getting the tentacles to show up is the trick to me. And down here is a little Veliger, which is a type of, what am I talking about? Gosh, I'm losing my mind. I'm so tired. Let me come back to that. It's a snail. I love jellyfish. They're my favorite, and I like things that sting. But I love octopus and squid. I'll take them any way I want. But my favorite things to shoot are really jellyfish or anything that's poisonous. The lionfish, you have so many different kinds of lionfish over there in Anilau and in the Philippines. They're all different colors. And of course, I threw the soul into the middle because he just looks like Elvis to me, and I had to have a little fun because he's so weird. And here's a couple more different setups that you can try. You can do the 2 o'clock, 10 o'clock setup. That I would use that for a larger animal. You can do the 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock where it's facing each other to get a dark background, but I just think the light's just blowing off in too many places, and it tends to hit my eyes, so I'm not crazy about that one. And my favorite one for jellyfish is this one with the top lighting. The top lighting, I perfected this, and I love how what it does is the light will travel through like a tuning fork. You know, when you hit a musical tuning fork and the sound just vibrates from one end to the other? Well, that's the same thing that happens with the light. And I wanted to show you some examples of top lighting. And you can see on the big jellyfish on the left, where you can see where the light was hitting on the top, but it travels through every tentacle that's there. And it just lights it up it gives it a different sense of lighting. And this is all filled with eggs, believe it or not, all of these little folds here. And here's another regular jellyfish, but in order to get every single little tendril to show up and to get all the little speckles and dots in it, that top lighting, you want to hit that light so that it's at the same angle. So if you have to move your camera to be in the same diagonal, then that's what you want to do. Whoops. And there's so many more new creatures out there to be found. And by the way, here's that shrimp. William, here's the shrimp. I found one. Here's an ocellated blue ring. And some more of these, and then another type of a jellyfish over here, and then this is a worm, an acorn worm. So my request to all of the dive operators in the Philippines is, being that you're in the center of the coral triangle with the highest density of marine life on the planet, I'm urging all Philippine dive operations to invest in learning about the blackwater diving setups and safety measures, and to find great locations, because when COVID is over, and it will be over soon, we're the photographers who are thirsty for new opportunities, as places like Anilao and Romblon have shown the photographic contributions are ridiculously amazing, and they will blow the scientific world away. And to the photographers, I tell you, recreational photography is not just a hobby, but it's an opportunity to document our planet. And we can contribute to the science of our world. With our images, we can inspire mankind to evolve as a planet. And I represent Discover the Oceans, and we're giving free advertising to all dive and marine related businesses for at least a year, helping our businesses to survive COVID. So you can contact me directly on Facebook. And whoops, I did take this on a blackwater dive, and if you think those other ones are hard, try taking one of those little guys. It's more fun in the Philippines. Thank you, Philippine Department of Tourism, for the opportunity to speak to your group, and I'm done.
Thank you, Susan. You will find out that each different presenters will tell you different ways of shooting underwater. There is no right, there is no wrong. I remember many, many years back, when Dubele, Nat Deloach, and I were judging a competition. They put all the judges in a boat, and we all went out diving together. At the moment we went down the water, we all laughed, because everybody has different setup. And by looking at the setup and by looking at each other, the ways that each other is shooting underwater, we found ways to solve our own problems that have been troubling us for many, many years. So in Nat Deloach, I see certain things that I can learn from. In Dubele, I could see many things I could learn from as well. So you will find that all of us today are going to tell you different things. We are not trying to confuse you, okay? All this, we are just telling you what works for us, and from what we tell you, you'll find what works for yourself. And that is the true meaning of this today's panel. Okay, we are going to go on to Mike. Mike, please show us your presentation.
Actually, I think Wowie's going to go next. He was having some computer issues. Is that right, Wowie?
I think I'm okay right now. Yeah.
Okay, Wowie, then you go ahead.
I just reset my computer. Sorry.
Right, no problem.
Okay, guys, and today I want to share my competition experience and how I edit my photo, and then how I shoot my photo. Okay, and try to start to share my screen. Okay. Okay. Today my topic is Blackwater, Anilao. Yeah. Anilao is one of my favorite place, and then I started my Blackwater in Anilao. Okay, And this is my setup. Okay, I have 3 stroke. So this one is manual stroke. Okay, and everybody see here that I have a manual trigger. So when I click the trigger, and then this will be manual. So this 2 is automatic. Okay, and then I have a focus light with RG Blue 03, and I also have a customized light here, and it will be warmer, and then less attract of plankton. And then you can see here, there's a black one here. So actually this is a cover. So when I cover the light, it's a manual cover, and then it's easier for me to cover the light. So sometimes if I saw something very special, and then I get very, very fast, and then I usually close all my lights. So actually the animal, maybe the animal cannot see me. So when I reach the animal, that's the time I open my light, and then I start shooting. So why? And this one is much more, it make you more easier to get close to your subject. And this setup is for my video. I have a Nikon Z7, and then with 2 scuba lamp, new V7K Pro, and then I have 3 lights. This one is for video and also for searching. So this is my video setup, and this is my photo setup. Okay. This is a golden diamond squid. Actually, this kind of sorry. The golden diamond squid form is usually changing color only in the first moment, about 1 second, or sometimes less than a second. And who would be the first one to shoot the diamond squid? You have the only chance, and sometimes the whole dive you only have 1 chance to shoot. And I have a video here.
Hi, Wowie. Is it okay if we put it open to? I think you are in presenter mode. So when we go back to the PowerPoint, we need to press the.
Yeah, sure, but I need to play the video.
Yeah,
That's right. Okay.
Yeah,
Sure. Sorry. I will show you the video, and then where's my video? Give me a few seconds. Sorry, I think I got some problem in my computer. So
it's okay. While we're waiting for Wowie, perhaps we can start with one question.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe I can just open it to either of you. Considering that distance seems to be an issue in blackwater photography, what are the tricks to get pelagic subjects like nudibranchs? Sorry, I'm a beginner. Or pelagic creatures, yes. So maybe either Susan or William can get this one as they just finished speaking. Oh, sorry, William, you're on mute.
Nudibranchs do come into mid-water sometimes. They are more, it's more probable in rock pools and places like this. So when the current actually hits on them and they come up to mid-water, but you will see the nudibranchs floating without struggling a lot, and it will be fully expanded. To get close to animals is you have to be able to control your buoyancy without kicking a lot. You need to control buoyancy with your breath. If you need to kick, you are actually creating a lot of current around you, and the nudibranchs will be moved by this current, so it will be very difficult to shoot. If you control your buoyancy through breathing, you are able to get close to the animals without creating current. So that's how we get to animals.
Okay, thank you. So Wowie, is your video ready?
Yeah, video ready.
Please.
Okay, so here you are. This is the first when you see the diamond squid, and then this I think this frame is 120 frames per second, so it's times 4 slower. We only have 1 chance. 1, 2, and then paper again. We try to reach the diamond squid first, slowly, and then one. Yeah, good. So okay, this one is the photo. And then the next one, before I have share my stroke, why I have a 3 stroke. So I have a manual trigger here. So this one is the photo. The manual flash shot, you can manually trigger the photo, and then it's a multi combination of light source. No, so it's I use the trigger, the third stroke, to freeze the photo. So when you see this is a single exposure, it's not a dual exposure. So you can play with this one. Like 1/4 second, you have three fish inside. Also this one, you have 2 frying fish inside. And then, okay. The next one is all fish. Okay, and then we can see it at every time in January or late February. And then we also have the ribbon fish, and we also have another kind of ribbon fish. And then I also have another ribbon fish. So this is a slow shutter diamond squid. Okay. So I also want to play another video to share the.
Wow, can I ask you a question while you're getting that?
Can you just ask a question? I think I lose my file again. I just changed my new computer. Another computer has a problem.
No problem. Okay, I think Susan has a question for you. So
I
maybe
do. On that,
Sure.
that manual trigger on the strobe, on the extra, it's an extra strobe you're using. So you're shooting, it's almost like a rear curtain shutter. So you're controlling 2 sets of lights. So the other strobes are going to go off, and you're going to shoot the manual one first, and then the other ones are going to go off when you put in some kind of time sequence.
Yeah. Actually, I use a rear curtain. So I have 2 strobe, which is automatic. So sometimes I put it at like 1.4 seconds, or sometimes even 1 second. And then when I click the shutter, sometimes I wait for half a second, and then I click the manual flash. So in one exposure, I can have 3 or sometimes 4 same subject. And then every time you just try to figure out which way the flying fish is moving. So sometimes I also move my camera, so just to put the flying fish on the left or on the right, because your subjects, you don't know sometimes where the flying fish going, left or right. So it's better you move yourself than you wait the animal to move. So it's my technique. Yeah.
That's very cool. That's been bothering me for a long time. How you got those shots?
thank you for that. Okay, so while Wowie's still looking for his video, let me go to another question. So which Philippine island or destination would you consider your favorite in terms of variety / creatures and conductive environment for Blackwater? I think, Susan, since you were the second speaker, I'm going to give this question to you.
Anilao.
Anilao, okay.
Anilao is number 1. I think Romblon is number 2, or they're even. You know, it's Romblon has its own set of creatures there. It's very unique. I just Anilao is easy to get to, and they've got it down. I think every place as many places as there are that are now doing Blackwater, there's more cropping up. But you go to Romblon because they have things that nobody else has. Just everything's already very small there, so it's even smaller when it's when we're talking about pelagic creatures. Theirs are even smaller. So I can't see them. They're gone. It looks like backscatter to me. I miss a whole bunch of stuff there.
All right, thank you for that. I hope we answered your question. So, Wowie, is your video ready?
Yeah, I got my video.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we'll continue with your video.
Thank you for watching. Okay. I just want to make some conclusion. In the past years, I have guiding a lot of photographers from all around the world, from Japan, from US. And then in a conclusion, in Anilao is one of the best blackwater destination in the world. in the past, Blackwater gave people the feeling of extreme dangerous diving activity. Now in Anilao, you can easily see many species from the deep ocean. Anilao is a magical place. And then last year, probably we see a lot of new coming out. And then we saw 7 arm, we saw 4 kind of ribbon fish. And then we also have a few anglerfish. So it's a good opportunity, you know, for everybody to visit Anilao, and you can try to our backyard. I think Anilao is the best place in the world. My presentation, yeah, it's very short, and then thank you everybody. Okay.
Thank you, Awi. Thank you, Awi. Okay, last but not least, we go to Mike, who has who runs Crystal Blue Resort in Anilao, and probably has logged the most dives among all of us in Anilao. Mike, would you show us what you have?
Thank you, William. Great work, Wowie. Great work, Susan. Really fascinating stuff. Let me try to get here so I can share my screen. Okay, so for me, blackwater diving is really about, you know, the natural science of things, and then challenging your photographic skills. You know, Wowie's very innovative. You know, the thing is that it's a very inclusive kind of diving. You don't have to be expert. I've guided people in their 80s on these types of dives, and people with and without cameras, people with compact cameras, very advanced SLRs. I'm more of a basic shooter, but you know, for me, there's nothing really more fun or more challenging, and it's probably one of the easiest dives you'll ever do. You just motor out, roll off the boat, and then when you're done, the boat picks you up. So it's very simple. The thing is, you only get one chance. If you're a photographer, you only get really one chance with these subjects, and you know, if you blow it, you miss the chance of a lifetime, as my mentor used to grind into me. So, you know, I'm a working underwater photographer. It's what I do. I dive every day. I have about 6,000 plus dives logged in my career, and probably over 3,500 in Anilao. So I might be a little biased. I've been in Anilao since my first dives there were in 2006. And, you know, you started talking about Gutsy before. So, you know, we were doing a lot of blackwater dives like 215, 216. And we used to go out and just tie a rope to the outrigger with a single torch on it. And, you know, what could possibly go wrong? The wind would blow, we'd be left in the dark. And clearly that wasn't going to work if I wanted to bring guests with me. Is that, you know, as a dive operator, I want, of course, to introduce people to this new kind of diving. And so I started the Facebook group, basically the Blackwater Photo Group, so we could stay in touch. People like myself and Susan and some of the others that are on the different sides of the planet that are also engaged in blackwater shooting. And at that time, it was really just us in Florida. You know, I mean, I've done it all over the world. I've done it in Bali. I've done it in Florida. I've done it all through the Philippines. And I, you know, for me, Anilao is just, it's off the hook for blackwater diving. So we have an ethos and a motto at the resort. We don't touch subjects. We don't manipulate, stress, trap, bottle, collect. We don't do any of those things. It's very important that we try to photograph the subject naturally. And that's what it's all about. As Susan alluded to before on the page, a lot of the scientists that see these creatures only have the opportunity to see them after they've been collected. They don't get to see the color. They don't get to see the behavior. So that's key for us to document those things from my standpoint. So here's my setup. It's very basic. I just use 2 strobes most of the time. Occasionally I'll use a single strobe. Sometimes I'll use a third, but this is my normal setup. I use a 3500 power torch on the top. It's pretty good for catching macro that's up front. But when I'm really, video. But when I'm shooting, you know, really going out, concentrating on video, I'll use 2 12K torches and a 3500 on the top. The lens in the front is a flip-up lens. That's a conversion lens. So my normal lens is a 60 millimeter lens, and it's a Nikon, and I use the short port. I can get extremely close to my subjects. There's a question in here before about, something regarding nearness to your subject. I'm not sure what the thing was phrased. Anyways, with the 60 millimeter lens, you're able to have a slightly wider angle of view and get very close to your subjects. And by getting close, you eliminate the distance between the lens and the subject. The more distance there is, the more chance you have for backscatter. You have more haze, less contrast, and your strobes aren't able to do the work that they're designed to do. So for me, I like to close the gap and get close to my subjects. Having a wide angle lens like that, I'm able to get very close to larger subjects and also illuminate them properly. So in addition to that, I also use this hand torch for hunting in the water, and it allows me to see things that are a good distance away from me. So we use this pumpkin that we developed. We're talking about being lost, or basically the light drifts off because it's windy topside, but below it's very calm. And that's one of the nice things about Anilao, although I have drifted from the tip of the Anilao Peninsula all the way to Chicken Feather. So you have to be careful where you drop in, if you guys know where Chicken Feather is. Anyways, you have to be careful where you drop in, and I think the drop is about 80% of the luck of Blackwater, attracting the subjects. We put the lights I have on the right side into the water, we let them soak, and you never really know what you're going to get. You can target subjects, but I think it's sometimes just luck of the drop. So Anilao is beautiful, both above and below, and the peninsula is surrounded by two deep set bays. We have the Balayan Bay, which most of us do our Blackwater diving in, but we also have the Bay of Batangas, which is okay too. Different visibility at different times of the year, but very beautiful. Stunning reef systems as well. A lot of people are there looking for small critters, but there's also stunning reef systems. And when you look at a reef system like this, you have to realize that everything that's there spent time developing in pelagia. So most of the subjects that we see out there, except for sharks, mammals, and rays, spend a portion of their life cycle developing in open water. So even though Anilao is well known for its critters, as we know, it is now famous for its Blackwater discoveries. So this was the first Blackwater creature the second Blackwater creature that I found, and this was quite by accident. I've had a lot of luck with first creature finds, not only for Blackwater, but for regular in California. And anyways, I've been very fortunate in my career. So my guide, Edgar, found this guy and pointed it out to me, and it didn't know what it was. I shot, I knew it was an octopus. I shot a lot of photos of it, sent it off to the California Academy of Science, and they described it as a settling wonderpuss. Now, I'd never even heard the phrase settling before, which means that the subject reaches a portion of its life cycle in the pelagia before it settles to the sand to start its new life. So this was a very interesting find, and it really got me interested in doing Blackwater in Anilao. Now, I had already been doing blue water dives here in California, which essentially, when you get down to about 80 feet, is very dark because of the way the sun sits. But so I was very interested in it already, but never really had the opportunity to explore it. Not until I saw the photos coming out from Gutsy that I was really inspired. We started diving a lot together, and that helped me to develop our downline system. Here's another subject on the left that I saw in 2011. Later on, we see the larval batfish, and we know, when you see these kinds of subjects and you understand the kind of substrate that they actually settle and live on, it gives you an idea of what you're drifting over. These guys settle on a muddy kind of substrate at 200 feet and below. So we know these are subjects that, we know, even though we can't see or want to go to the bottom on a Blackwater dive, you would never want to go to the bottom because we're doing this over deeper water. We know what the substrate consists of. So very interesting finds. Our strategy basically is to get out there and dive as much as possible. That's all I can say. You know, people ask me this frequently. You know, what's the secret? The secret is to go out and do it as much as you possibly can. The more time you spend in the water, the more things that you're going to see, the more you're going to learn, the more you're inspired to go out again and again. And I'm sure these guys could attest, you know, when you have one good blackwater dive, you're sold. You know, everything else is fluff after that. So, you know, it's not uncommon for us to sleep all day and dive all night. So get out there, dive as much as possible, study everything that you can, look small, and you will find big. Excuse me. What we try to do is on our downlines is create a plankton cloud. So when we do this, we throw the line into the water. It's rigged up, and we just wait. We hang out on the boat, and at least a half an hour, sometimes longer, and let the lights do the work. So the lights bring in these small planktons, and then the predators start to show up. I use 2 different kinds of balls depending what I'm after. If I want the subjects that live in that water, air-water interface, then I'll use my plankton ball. This is only 15 feet long with 2 lights shining straight up. And then I have another ball that I have lights that shine up and down. It's approximately 100 feet long because I like to go deep. You don't have to go deep though. And then a couple of snapshot slides of the different creatures that we can see. It's long been known that horizontal migration has existed. It was studied in the 1800s, but it wasn't really, vertical migration wasn't really discovered until approximately the 40s. And it happened quite by accident. So we don't really get an intense upwards migration as they would in other places like in Kona. They could get an upwards plankton migration of say 10,000 feet. For us, I think a lot of it is pushed into the bays. Subjects settle. They also follow a seasonal migration pattern, some of the flatfish, which gives us the opportunity to really see just some incredible biodiversity. And as you know, the Verde Island Pass is known to be one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. So these 2 deep set bays are just fed different kinds of subject matter and larval fish, larval subjects continuously. So this is shot with using the conversion lens. I started shooting video using the just the regular macro lens, but it's very hard to track. So having these kinds of wide angle lenses are really essential. From sheltering fish. You really never know what you're going to get, you know. And a lot of times, you know, when you're shooting video or anything, you could be out there and maybe get 1 or 2 interesting creatures on a dive. Other nights you might get everything on a dive. So it's really quite an experience. You know, you're in a 360-degree environment. Subjects coming in from above and below. See the downline in the background there. Mouth anchoring. The scorpion fish mimics a jellyfish. I'm not really a video shooter by trade. I've really started doing it for Blackwater because it tells a better story, I think, than just a quick photograph. You can really see, you know, the behaviors, which is so important to me, and the movement, you know, just the movement and everything. So we know these subjects are part of the greater food web, which feeds larger organisms in the ocean. One thing about Anilao is the water usually has a lot of plankton. We don't normally have very clean, clear water to shoot in. It can be challenging. The Nautilus is really one of the subjects that put our little area onto the map for Blackwater. And then, of course, the blanket octopus. I mean,
How big is that?
big. Yeah, the blanket octopus can get up to 6 feet. You know, when they open their blanket like that, it's like the size of a mattress. You know, they can be really big. So it's quite difficult with the 16. If you have a 100mm lens, forget it. I would never suggest a 100mm to anybody. My hat's off to you, William. I've tried it a few times by accident, but it's not my go-to lens. I don't use diopters because I lose depth of field. And I really want to be able to, you know, I don't mind cropping if I'm shooting for competition, which I don't normally do, or, you know, actually I don't go out intending to shoot for competition. If I get a subject that is full frame and competitive worthy, I'll try it. I haven't had much luck, some luck, but you know, anyways, I try to tell people to look small. And you'll be really amazed. You know, these subjects that we see there, these little pteropods and heteropods, different types of subjects, they make up the greater food web, which is basically which feeds everything on our planet, all the way up to humans. Okay, so different types of predatory gastropods feed on the smaller pteropods and smaller things. We even have nudibranchs that feed on the tentacles of jellyfish. Pipefish and seahorses are also common to see, and we know that the tides change when we start seeing these guys. They usually get pulled out into the bay from their little estuaries. Bentstick pipefish, really beautiful. It looks like seagrass when it's all folded up together. And when you get your lights on them, then they unfold, and they're just a whimsical, kind of beautiful subject. And, you know, really just love seeing these kinds of creatures. Balloon stage mantis, you know, this is a kind of mantis that'll never settle to the sand. These guys, I think there's over 450 types of stomotopods described, but only a handful of them actually settle to the sand, and the rest of them become, again, part of that planktonic food web that feeds larger organisms. Immortal jellyfish, very interesting life cycle on these, and I really suggest anybody that's in the audience and interested in this stuff to either definitely join the Blackwater Photo Group, but go and Google some of these subjects and see if you can read the papers on them. We know the immortal jellyfish gets its name because it can actually live forever. It reverses itself back to the polyp stage. So it goes from the planula, which then becomes a benthic polyp, which releases the jellyfish. Then after they have their young, they can resort and revert themselves back to a polyp. So they can live, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years. Big jellyfish in the bay at different times. Some of them act as little biospheres with all kinds of different organisms, using them for shelter. Here's a larger one with one of my guides. And the relationship, we know that jackfish and the Physantostoma is very special. In fact, a lot of jellyfish, they actually push the jellyfish through the water, and it is able to sting other organisms, which actually gives it, it keeps them both healthy. There's a short video here on it. So you see they select the jellyfish at a very young age. They grow with them over a period of time, but scientists haven't really figured out what that time span is. You can see it here, it's a little chin jelly. It's selected the jellyfish platform. They grow together over a period of time. The jellyfish even has a little flap that the jackfish can kind of rest in. So this is one of the cool behaviors that we get to see a lot when we're in the water. If you think about from the scientific community, you know, collecting these types of organisms using ships, you know, you get these trawls, you pull it up, and you have a jellyfish in there, and you have fish in there. But unless you saw the relationship of these two together in the water, swimming together, you don't really have a deeper understanding of what's happening. So again, what we do does lend itself to scientific study, and that's pretty cool. So one thing I really love about blackwater diving, and I'll use that phrase a lot, is that we have the opportunity to really see things that have never been seen before. And for me, that is one of the key things that has drawn me to being a part of the underwater world. You know, just the opportunity to get down there and see these things right offshore. I mean, it's right there, and we're seeing life that nobody else has seen. It's just magnificent. So long arm octopus, not sure what the one on the right is. Wonderpuss is definitely an iconic subject for Anilao now. You know, we get a lot of guests, that's all they want to see. I just want to see a Wonderpuss. Or they'll say, all I want to see is one Nautilus. And by 3 or 4 days, they're like, you know, if I see another Nautilus, I'm going to puke. I don't want to ever see another Nautilus again. So, you know, they're there. You come out, you see them, and it's just a beautiful, different types of subject. Here I'm using a slow shutter, trying to capture movement, and sometimes it works pretty well. Here's a good size reference. You know, this is a lens of a 60 millimeter with a little Nautilus up front. Different types of squids. So again, the deep water species of different subjects following the planktons and feeding on the planktons brings a lot of times brings them up to a depth where we can actually see them. So, you know, a lot of money goes into these deep sea research vessels, but, you know, I'm never going to be able to afford to go out on one of them. And this is about as close as I could ever get. So, and it's a real thrill to see something that is actually from the deep coming up to feed. An Ope squid, very beautiful. I'm not sure how large these guys can get. I think maybe 10 or 15 kilos. So pretty good size. Squid are probably one of the most fascinating creatures. They definitely are fast, voracious. The diamond squid we know is part of the rhomboid squid complex because of the shape of the swimmerets on the back. Like octopus, they have 8 arms, but they also have 2 tentacles. That's what really separates the the squid family from the octopus family. So they use those 2 tentacles down front to reach out and snap things. And then they actually bring themselves to the subject to feed on it. Really interesting. The head locks, well, I could go on and on about it, but I'm not. Anyways, the coloration I found for these guys comes from the way the strobe hits the subject. And this one was swimming under me, and I'm shooting straight down on it. A moment before this, I was shooting just straight at it. So it's really 2 different color values by the way it's refracting the light. And then, of course, the chromatophores on the top. And purple back, this is a pretty common squid that we see. And when you're doing blackwater dives, you're offshore. In Anilao, you don't have to go so far. I know Florida, you're at least 5 miles. California, we're about 5 miles out. But Anilao, you know, we're maybe 1,000 yards offshore. And the squid life that we see there is much different than what you'll see on shore. Occasionally, we might see a reef squid out in the deep, but these purple-backed squids are very very common. And these guys swim in giant packs of similar shapes and sizes. They'll come in, ink out, hunt, and snatch fish right out of the water. So it's not uncommon to be able to capture these kinds of images. And larval fish, some of my favorite things. So, you know, for our area, the amount of larval fish that we get is pretty astounding. I know that in Florida, they have a different type of current system that we have. But for where we're at, the Verde Island Pass, bringing in these types of deep sea subjects and developing larvae is very interesting. So our bays really are kind of like a little estuary, you know, which means that small subjects can basically find shelter to live and develop without being eaten. But as we know, it's a big challenge for these guys to survive. I mean, just imagine you have to swim in the dark and try to survive not being eaten by other creatures. So transparency is a huge mechanism for nature to overcome these obstacles. And so a lot of the subjects that we see mimic either other jellyfish using these long appendages, or they're just completely transparent or slightly opaque, which makes them difficult to photograph. And Susan was talking about that. For me, you know, I take a little different stance because of backscatter. I do shoot a higher f-stop, around f18 to 22. And the only reason why I would increase it like that is to kind of push down the exposures. And I keep my strobes out about 18 inches from the arms on both sides. And it really helps me to eliminate a lot of the backscatter. And I can shoot at a higher strobe strength. And it really brings out colors of the subjects for me that way. And there's just a lot of different ways that you could do this. I've tried every other strobe angle in the book that I could think of, and right now I like shooting with my strobes apart. It really helps me to eliminate the backscatter. So, you know, the crocodile toothfish, I was talking to a scientist about this guy today, about these appendages that come off. We know it's a deep water settling subject, but these are actually flaps that protect the gills. They have nothing to do with the dorsal fins. They're actually a membrane that will cover the gills and give it some protection later on. So really, I mean, I just found that out. It's really fascinating. Star eater, just another one of those cool subjects. So this is very, very small and moving around, you know, in the plankton. And sometimes you'll be looking at stuff and you'll notice one thing moving the opposite direction of others. And, you know, for me, that's what the human eye will find that. And for me, I'll be attracted to it and try to shoot photos. And sometimes they're so small, you're shooting, and it's really hard to tell what it is until you get it on your screen and look at it. So we do have a lot of lionfish and scorpion fish and those things in our area. So we have a really good possibility of photographing these guys. You know, we know these lionfish like to sit in the water column facing straight up, and they look just like a jellyfish. So, you know, they have that extreme morphism, which kind of, again, lends itself to having a protection. If it looks like a jellyfish, most fish aren't going to eat it. Pegasus sea moth, this guy was so small. And we had a lot of bait fish in the water this night, which most of the time, if there's bait fish, it means fish poop. So, you know, just imagine these little specks, which were a lot of times were keyed into photograph, a little tiny speck, you know, and there's a lot of bait fish in the water, and now you have the poop to contend with. But so I'm focusing on something that looks like a little tiny piece of fish poop, but it's going in the opposite direction of everything else. So I keyed in on it, and wow, you know, one thing that I've really discovered is behavior of subjects like the flying gurnards or the snake eels. It's like a thumbprint, you know. Even the larval subject, will behave very similar to the ones that we see on the substrate. So that's another kind of a cool thing. Pompanos, very beautiful to see these guys swimming in from the dark, attracted to the downline. A lot of times there'll be two of them together. They'll split apart for a while and then come back together. But when you see them out in the dark attracting or coming in, it looks like one fish. It really does. So these appendages really serve a protection type of protective kind of disguise, I guess you would call it, in the water, and just very highly effective. Sailfish, I got this guy a few months back, and it again behaved just like the adults. I've swam with some of these adults, and they'll come in slashing, flaring up, moving back out, and this guy kept doing the same thing to me, swimming straight at my lens port, flaring, and shooting out. And I was shooting so hard that I actually bent my shutter release on my camera. The flying fish at the surface, really just beautiful. And for me, I like shooting flying fish anytime, of course, but during June and July, during those months, the water in Anilao is like glass. So you can get out there and actually snorkel around and see the flying fish out there. And right at the surface, it's, you can get these amazing, colorful, beautiful images. The ribbonfish, I've been lucky to see one so far, one kind. We always had a good run on them. I had a curse on the ribbonfish, which I broke last year. I'm very happy about that. So hopefully I'll get to see more. My guests have seen some of the other ones. I have not yet. But we're hunting, again, nautilus. We know that the male doesn't form the shell, the female does. And you see it on the right and to the left. These are both females. And so there's a lot of theory and speculation about why they use the jellyfish or other flotsam. And so I guess a lot of scientists lean towards the side of them using these to conserve energy, to remain in the shallows. As we know, the paper nautilus is much different than a chambered nautilus. So they don't have the ability to just float and use their gases for buoyancy. So they have to trap air to remain up in the shallows, or use the jellyfish, which helps them to conserve energy. So when I say the shallows, we're really talking about the top 600 feet of water, and then at night they'll start coming up and then attracted to our lights. So these guys are pretty curious. They'll come in, and we're able to photograph and work with them, but they're also very fast. So even though they might be towing something, they still remain very fast. So this behavior is called stacking. We know that they stack like this, and they'll make chains up to 10 or 15, even longer. So this is just two of them. They've broken apart from the longer chain, reflecting at the surface. A quick video. So I'm swimming as fast as I can to keep up with this, and shooting 120 frames a second. Actually, I think, yeah, I do. I shoot 120 frames a second, and then I put it back into regular speed for that. So when I'm shooting video, or I suggest to other people to do that, to do the same, because it really smooths out the capture of when you're capturing the image. So for video, it's really helpful. Blanket octopus, really one of those creatures that's been shrouded in mystery. And, again, Anilao has just blown my mind by its populace of these blanket octopus. And they come in feeding and hunting along the shoreline in different areas. And quite reliable, actually, to see these guys where we're at. So these really exotic creatures have become accessible to people that want to go out and have these experiences. So, there's nothing quite like seeing a blanket octopus, and you have to get out there and really experience it for yourself. No words can really describe the thrill of seeing an exotic subject like this. We know that they rip the arms off of jellyfish and use them for protection, in addition to having this beautiful, elaborate blanket. So this one I shot maybe 6 months ago, and I felt something bumping my arm. Something kept like touching the back of my arm, and I thought it was my guide. And I turned around, and it was a blanket octopus right here behind me. It was following me, and I looked at it. It looked at me, and we both just took off in different directions. And just an amazing experience. And this is another blanket octopus that I shot. This is the first one that I ever saw, and it's full of eggs. This one is about 6 feet in length without opening its blanket. And easily the size, it looked like a surfboard swimming through the water. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a giant ray at first, and I was swimming back towards my downline, and my floodlight was on my camera. The guests had already got on the boat. It was one of those nights where nothing was really going our way, and I saw this thing, and I realized, oh my God, it's a blanket octopus. I mean, there's nothing else in the world that looks like these things. And it's circling around me. I'm shining my light to the boat, and my guest jumped back in, comes swimming back down to me. And the two of us were able to share this experience of photographing this huge blanket octopus with eggs. And I don't know if one has ever been photographed since, but yeah, so they carry the eggs. You know, the male, you talk about sexual dimorphism, where the male is much smaller than the female. The male is only about the size of 2 inches, I think, or 4 inches, and the female is measured in meters, up to 6 feet. So the male, all he has to do is touch the female, and the hecatococcus breaks off, finds its way to the ovum, and then can fertilize the eggs. So really interesting way of how they actually exist and mate, populate, and sustain in open ocean. So,
Mike, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I think we only have a few minutes left before the next talk.
That's good, because I'm finished. Perfect timing. Last few words here. You know, blackwater diving is really, for me, it requires a team. It's a teamwork effort, and make sure if you're interested in this kind of diving, to contact the resort, set it up ahead of time. Make sure that they, if it's not Crystal Blue or somebody else that has a reputation for this, make sure that the place knows what they're doing. They're set up with safety first. Okay, so that's all I have. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Mike, and all the speakers. Unfortunately, to our audience, we do not have time anymore for any questions, but what we can do is, if I may ask the speakers to check the comment section of the Facebook Live. In about 1 minute, we are about to start the cave rec and tech diving talk. So if you'd like to join us at 2 p.m., then we hope to see you there. Guys, I'm so sorry, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Good work, guys.
Thank you.
Nice seeing everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us here. It was good. It was actually fun to listen to hear everybody else's ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Compare notes.
Thank you.
See you
Bye-bye.
later.